Hello. It's been a while. I was thinking the past few days, I'm like, gosh, I should probably get back on and record something because there's so much going on. And then I kind of did this weird, like, crazy person laugh. And I was like, man, if I would have recorded this, like, a year or two ago, people would have been like, dude, she needs to be committed, right? Like, I would never have believed any of the stuff that is going on now would be actually happening. And it's all kind of like happening at once. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what do I talk about? Because there's so much crazy stuff. So I'm going to focus a little bit on oil prices because I think that affects all of us when we fill up our tanks with gas. If you have an electric vehicle, I guess, it's already filtering through to your electricity prices at home. I feel like I get emails or text messages like every month or something from our power company about, hey, we're changing rates again, and that's why it matters, and it's annoying. But anyway, so there's nothing like, a war, I guess, in the Middle East with a blockade of a blockade and failed negotiations to drive up oil prices, right? So the Strait of Hormuz, which you've all heard about, it controls about 25%. 25% of the global oil output flows through there on ships, right? Now, we have a new dog. We rescued a puppy. He's the best, but sometimes he makes noises, so you might hear him. Out of the Strait of Hormuz, about 25% of the global oil, about 20% of LNG, which is liquefied natural gas. So for that oil that comes through there on ships, which right now no ships are going through because, someone is probably going to try to blow them up. 85% of that oil, or 90% roughly, that comes out of there goes straight to Asia, with 90% of that, 85%, going to China. So China's kind of pissed. But you probably are too, right? Because I don't know about you, but I've been looking at gas prices spiking, right? So, I don't know, a year ago, weren't we talking about eggs, right? Or flour, or general food type stuff. Now it's gas. So I pulled some data because I like numbers. Who doesn't like numbers? So let's talk about Brent crude, which is, there's a lot of different like labels for barrels of oil, but let's just, and I'm not going to go through what they all mean, but let's just, for argument's sake, look at the Brent crude oil price, and they quote it per barrel, okay? So, today it's at about, like right now, a barrel of Brent crude is 96.83. $96.83. You're like, that means nothing to me, right? That doesn't. Well, last year, at this time, it was about low 60s. And over the past 12 months, it's fluctuated generally between mid-50s, mid-60s. It spiked to almost 120 in early March when this war was, I guess, announced by our president, for the reasons that I explained before. A lot of the world's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz. One thing you might ask is, well, how does that affect us here in the United States? One interesting factoid. We get over half, it's like almost 60% of our oil actually from Canada. So you're going to say, oh, it doesn't impact us, right? No. Here's one thing to note. Well, first of all, a couple of things. First of all, the oil that we are using today was shipped through the Strait of Hormuz before this war started, okay? And then you're just like, yeah, but Amy, the prices are effing crazy. Well, yeah, supply and demand. When will the oil that is blockaded, when will that stuff hit? Supposedly, next week. So, all the stuff we're using now was shipped out before. By the end of this week, early next, that's when, supposedly, according to experts, of which I'm not, they say that we will feel more of an effect. That is when, from timeline and the lag, that the oil that should have been shipped through the Strait of Hormuz was blockaded. Oh, and then blockaded again by us, which I don't get. There's a lot of stuff going on I don't get. So, how has that impacted our gas prices, right? So today, if you go to the pump and you just get regular unleaded, like none of the fancy stuff, it is this is a national average. So I know in California, it's batshit crazy high. There are markets that are really high, but let's look at a national average. About $4.11. Last month, this time, $3.70. Last year, this time, $3.17. So, up $1 on 35% increase. That's a big deal. But let's look at something else. Diesel. Why do I care about diesel? Well, all those big trucks that are delivering everything that you and I use, from groceries to, I don't know, household goods, whatever, those trucks use diesel. They don't use regular unleaded. And what's interesting is those prices have skyrocketed. So today, a gallon of diesel is about $5.64. Last month, $4.97. A year ago, $3.59. And if I do the math in my head, $3.59. Now, $5.64. I'm just going to say it's an increase of $2, right? $2 on $3.50. That's well more than 50%, right? So those diesel prices have spiked more than regular traditional unleaded gas. So that's costing things. Now, why also are the oil prices going up if the oil that was supposed to have gone through the Strait hasn't affected us yet? Well, supply and demand, and also, let's remind ourselves, the very, very largest oil producers in the world, they don't just sell oil, right? They don't just I'm going to make this very simplistic, and this isn't how it works. It's not like they negotiate with a company in the Strait of Hormuz and say, okay, I want 1,000 barrels of oil, I need it shipped by here. Oh, no. This is a finance stuff that you need to be aware of. All of those companies, do you remember Exxon? Anyway, they all have huge trading operations too. So beneath all of this, if you dig down, a lot of people make and lose a lot of money trading oil, the futures of oil, what they think it's going to be in the future, right? All of that affects the daily price of oil. So it's not just what someone pays for a single barrel of oil that comes through the Strait. It's all these other factors. Where's it trading? What do the future prices look like? What are people thinking is going to happen? And that sentiment also impacts the price of oil. So you're feeling that as well, okay? Now, how does this all parlay not only into gas prices of what you and I have to put in our cars? Thank God for King Soopers gas points. If you're not part of the program, get with it. Cheaper than Costco if you do that, if you buy your groceries at King Soopers. Food. So a year ago I said, we were all very focused on eggs and all this other stuff, right? If you go to the store, grocery store now, not the gas station, and let's say you are buying eggs, or you're buying a cantaloupe, or you're buying lettuce, or you're buying pasta or bread, roughly 40% of what you're paying for is the cost of that grower or that company to make or grow that product. So specifically for produce, let's say that you're buying a cantaloupe. 40% of what you're paying for, roughly, is the cost that farmer or producer paid, costs of goods sold, to make that cantaloupe. What does that include? Water, fertilizer. Ooh. Fertilizer is a byproduct of petroleum, right? Those barrels of oil, that price goes up, there's that. And it's not just the fertilizer, it's the cost of getting you that cantaloupe, which is put on I feel like I'm in a children's program, a semi-truck, right? And that semi-truck runs on, I'll give you a hint, it starts with a D and ends with L, diesel. And we talked about how expensive that is. So everything's connected, guys, right? We've talked about this before, that you can't just take a single data point or a single event that happens and be like, holy crap, boom. No, it's like a convoluted, twisted tree. It's like a family tree with everyone who got divorced, remarried 3 or 4 times, There's stepchildren. There's all this stuff. I mean, man, this is not like a single flower blooming plant. This is all over the place. You know how aspen trees, I don't know if you know this, another good factoid. When you see a big bunch of aspen trees together, do you know what's pretty cool? They all share roots underground, right? And they're all intertwined. Well, that's what this is. This is like an aspen tree root system, right? That's how my mind works in mysterious ways. So there's all this stuff going on. And then, on the sidelines, all this other... Do you feel like there's a lot of noise going on in the news right now? I do, right? So aside from the oil and the petroleum products and how that affects the fertilizer prices and the diesel prices and our food and how much you spend on the gas tank. And oh, by the way, what about airfare, right? They're going to be affected too. So that is going to go up in price. It's a ripple effect, right? But put aside that, I am overwhelmed, guys. Maybe this is why I haven't done as many of these recently. There's so much shit going on. It's like every day I'm just like, are you serious? For real? Like, how can this be? Like, I'm sorry, guys, but a president putting out an image of himself as Jesus Christ, like, listen, not all of you know me personally. I was raised in a fairly religious household, born-again Christian. I'm not as religious right now. But that kind of image, it's disgusting. It's insulting. No matter your religion, like it's out of line, right? It's out of line. So you have that kind of noise going on, right? And then you have all these weird decisions coming out of the Supreme Court about like, hey, conversion therapy is fine. It's, First Amendment right. That's like a whole other discussion in and of itself, right? It's every day. It's like getting smacked in the forehead with a 2x4 of something else. And meanwhile, I'm like, oh, I saw ICE agents the other day. That's awesome. There's so much going on. And then I'm like, but wait a second. We have all these issues here at home, right? Like public education, funding. Can we make sure that is funded appropriately for our children? Even just basic infrastructure, streets, bridges, everything. I feel like there's so much basic stuff that's being like forgotten. And meanwhile, we're all like getting this news about crazy shit every single day. And again, educate, don't hate, right? Dig into the numbers, dig into what's going on. But my head feels like it's turning around. I'm like an owl combined with Beelzebub, and it's just like, woohoo, woohoo. It's too much. It's just too much. So I'm going to even do a 180 right now and say, well, how has that affected me financially? How has it affected what I'm doing investment-wise? When things get batshit crazy, it's too hard. It's too hard to make decisions on stuff. Every day there's something where like the markets tank, then they go up, then they tank, then we have a high. It's too volatile. It's too volatile. So unless you decide that you are like God's gift to this earth, and I'm not talking about our president, and you understand volatility very well, and you can make a shit ton of money off of that, kudos and congratulations. So personally, my portfolio right now, well over half of it is cash. It's been sitting in cash for a while. The other stuff, I made some trades before the end of the year for tax reasons. I got out of some pretty high beta, high risky stuff. I've kept my dividend payers. I've kept my easygoing, easy peasy stuff. And right now I'm just sitting back. And I'm waiting and I'm thinking. And when there's this much going on in the background, it's really hard as an individual investor to try to time that. So you know what? I don't. I don't try to play the game. And if you want to do that, fine. But just understand there are consequences. You could do great. Dude, you could hit it out of the park. You could also lose everything, right? So when you play in equities, those accounts are not guaranteed by the government. This is not a savings account at a bank that is guaranteed for up to $100,000, right? And that's the risk you take. But it's kind of fun if you're into that stuff, but you got to be aware. So, I'm going to end it here. Sorry, I kind of babbled. It's been a long time. oil prices, what is going on in Iran, affects more than what you think. It's not just the barrels of oil going to China. It's the food you put on your table. It's the gas that you put in your car. It's your electricity bill, right? And how much you're being charged for that. It's that flight that you were going to book for a summer vacation. It's all related. Remember, like the roots of an aspen tree, very large family tree family. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. I will try to post more. It's been wonky. We actually adopted another dog. We got a puppy. Good friends of ours are fosters for a rescue organization. Shout out to Rocky Mountain Puppy Rescue. In any case, we are busy over here, but loving life, still trying to focus on the positive, focus on happiness, positive energy. I know you guys are like, oh my God, here she goes again. But listen, guys, I would love to educate you more on what's going on. I'm going to try to do a better job doing this more regularly. But again, educate yourself on what's going on. Don't just form an opinion and go, oh my God, this is insane. Well, it is insane. But let's dig in, and how does it affect you on a daily basis? That's what's important to me, and that's what's important to me in terms of education. So enjoy your Wednesday, and, try to stay positive, but educate yourself. Don't shut the door to understanding. Don't be like, oh my God, this is too much. I can't handle it. Take a deep breath and try to understand it. I'll try to help you along the way. On that note, guys, enjoy your day. Take care. Thanks.